All right, I think we're just about ready to get started. So nice to see you folks. You may have some others joining us. So I think we just start with maybe a quick round of introductions. Everyone should be able to mute and unmute yourself. If you can't, just let me know. And I'll start. I'm John Thibodeau. I live over on Clinton Street, and I'm the chair of the DCNA board. I'm going to point people just to make it a little quicker. Hillary, why don't you go next?
I'm Hillary. I'm a guest here tonight, and I live across the street from Zach.
Thanks. Welcome, Hillary. Zach, why don't we take you next?
Hi, I'm Zach Enright. I'm the recorder for the DCNA, and I live on Fuller Street.
Great. Thanks, Zach. Will.
I am Will Honan. I'm observing tonight. I'm with Helix Media Marketing. We help Kevin with a bunch of marketing stuff. I live in Scarborough. Very familiar with the neighborhood, though. My dad grew up at 400 Woodford Street.
Oh, great.
Corner of Belfield.
Great. Welcome, Will.
Thank you.
Terry?
Terry Petnov. I live on Leonard Street, and I've been on the board for a while.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah.
Scott?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Siegel, and I live on Alba Street, and I'm on the board. I'm the treasurer. And I'm eating dinner and at work, so I'm going to stay muted most of the night.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Sam?
Hello, everyone. Sam Zager. I live on Prospect Street, and I'm the state representative for District 41, which is for which Deering Center is the center. So really appreciate getting to drop in. I'm going to have to pop off shortly, but really wanted to say hello and listen.
Great. Thanks, Sam. Good to see you. Allison.
I'm Allison Kenway. I'm on the DCNA board, and I live on Richardson Street.
John, should I go? We
Yes.
can hear you.
Sorry, Colin. I know.
Colin Apps, I'm Vice President of DCNA. Is that what I am? And I'm on Maple Street.
Great. Thanks, Colin. Karen.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Hi, I'm Karen. I am a board member, and I'm also one of the folks working on green space issues.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Dennis.
Dennis Bachman, board member, and I live on Hamblin Avenue.
Thanks, Dennis. And Jerry, can't see you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm on Waverly Street, right near UNE, and I'm just joining to see what Kevin has to say about the Stevens Square project.
Great. Thank you, Jerry. All right. Nice to see everyone. And Kevin, I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Bunker. I'm with Developers Collaborative, and I'm the developer of the Stevens Square project. So thank you, John, for asking me to be here tonight. And I guess I'm to give you about a 10-minute rundown on what's going on at the campus, and then maybe take some Q&A. So I'm going to do that now. So there'll be hopefully plenty of time for questions. I'm not sure. I'm sure everyone has a pretty good familiarity with the campus being in the neighborhood. So I won't do too big of a rundown, but it's got several components. Obviously, I think you guys know the Mother House got built first, Mother House Apartments. It's 88 apartments in there. They've been full since 2018 when it opened, and there's a kind of a thriving community in there that's weathered COVID with 0 cases, which has been great, and it's just kind of humming along. And the other pieces of the campus, it's really 2 other major chunks. One of them is the new construction residential that we've been working on. And then there's the community center and the former Maine Girls Academy and McCauley School. So I'll talk a little bit about the new construction first. As some of you who may be familiar with the master plan or have been involved before may be aware, there's a total of 5 buildings planned for the campus. The first one is essentially complete. I think we have residents living in there now. We have transferred title to, we've had 6, maybe half a dozen closings out of the 20 units in the building. 21, and the other units are all going to be closing over the next few weeks. So you do have some new neighbors now, and you'll have more over the coming weeks. So we're just finishing that up. well behind schedule. COVID was, if any of you are anywhere near the construction development industry, it was very, very difficult to get anything done on time. First of all, there were several months when there was a lot of uncertainty about could you build and was it safe to build, and plants were shut down and could you get materials, and then overnight the economy was roaring and you couldn't get any because everybody was buying them up, and it's been an interesting roller coaster of a year. So we're a good 6 months behind where we wanted to be in finishing the building, but we did finish it in a way that I think we're pretty happy with, and our buyers are pretty happy with. We do have one unit we haven't sold yet. We've sold all but one of the units, so that's going pretty well, and so I'm happy with it. It's done, and it's good to be done. It's almost done. It's been quite a road to get that first building in. And what we're doing now is we're getting ready to go back to the city to get the approvals for the next 4 buildings. And you may know there's a master plan approval in place, but we still have to go back for the detailed site plan elements for the remaining 4 buildings. And we actually had our first meeting with the city yesterday, and we'll be submitting probably in the next few weeks. And then so over the spring and summer, there'll be the public process you typically would associate with the planning board on those next 4 buildings. What you'll see when you see the plans, if you've seen the master plan, the first building is built right on Stevens, just south of the mother house. And the other 4 buildings are sort of in a quad on the athletic fields. And that's what you're gonna see again. Really is not very different from the master plan that got approved. It's just more engineering, more detail. There's sort of 2 big moves to the plans. I'm not gonna show the plans today just because I wanna have the big reveal when they go public. But if you remember the master plan, there was sort of a roundabout in the middle and traffic going through the middle of the site. And when those plans were done, I wasn't really, I only got involved at the very end of that master planning and zoning process. I didn't own the thing, and I've ended up owning it over the past few years. I've gradually bought out my partners, and now, except for the mother house, which I still own with Matt, I own the whole campus myself. So that was never certainly the intent, and it's kind of a big project for me, but I'm having fun with it and trying to do good with it. So anyway, what that means is now I get to kind of make it the way I think it should be done. And a lot of that did have some of my thinking in it, but some of the thinking that I'm adding to it now is taking that traffic circulation out of the middle and putting more of a green quad in the middle, like a campusy kind of feel. So we were able to do that, and we did, and we think it looks good, and I hope you do too. But the other big move we made, one of the big conversations, we had a lot of big conversations back then. I'll just call them big conversations, but one of them was about Baxter Woods and putting buildings next to Baxter Woods and proximity and all those issues. And if you remember the plans, we had a big double loaded row of parking below, in between the 2 buildings in Baxter Woods, and that was the focus of quite a bit of conversation. But it was the only way we could get our two parking spaces per unit that the ordinance required. And there was a lot of talk about, well, maybe you should do less parking. The other thing that was happening when the master plan was done is there was an athletic field set aside for Maine Girls Academy, which kind of went over under the St. Catherine's lot, but also took up some of our space. And actually, right as Matt and I were in the process of buying the project from John Wasilewski, the Maine Girls Academy shut down. So we had to close anyway, despite the thing shutting down. And so what we ended up with was a 50,000 square foot development project on our hands basically overnight. And that might have been one of the reasons that Matt got hives so often. I had to buy him out because there was just so much uncertainty with how does that work. But anyway, what that meant was we no longer had to necessarily save out that real estate for that athletic field. And what that allowed us to do was take that row of parking, which was below the buildings next to Baxter Woods, and put it above the buildings. So now we have green space and gardens between the buildings and Baxter Woods. So I think that it's a better design, and I think it also will hopefully not catch too many slings and arrows. I think it's a positive. So hopefully I think people will like that. So anyway, those are the 2 big moves. The rest of it, you're going to see the same types of buildings, little changes, but really it's pretty similar. So that's going forward this spring and summer. And if everything goes great, we might build another building in the fall, but I don't know. I used to be pretty aggressive about promising timelines for buildings, and this last year and a half has taught me to just chill on that because there's too much beyond my control. So that's what's going on with the condos. The community center has really been my baby. I've got several project managers. One of my project managers has really been running with the condos, but the community center has kind of been mine. And it's been a real interesting organic process of figuring out as we go. It started out, we had to figure out who to donate all the stuff to because they left everything behind, from lab equipment and microscopes to textbooks to student files and furniture and everything else. So we gave as much away as we could. And as we began to redevelop it, we had to throw a bunch of stuff away, but we actually were able to give away quite a bit to a bunch of different groups. So that was cool. The first tenant that came to me was Blue Wave Basketball, which you probably know about. They've been in the gymnasium. They did a 2-year lease to start. They just re-upped for 5 years. So they're kind of a core tenant of the building at this point. They're doing well, happy and like it there, and are always asking for where to find another basketball court. So I think their business is going well, very active, a lot of kids in there. They have been wearing masks now. It took a while to get them to do it, but they're doing it now. Then the daycare came along, and Growing Learners Daycare, that's kind of old news now as well. That's been in now for well over a year. That's the whole first floor of the classroom wing. And they're doing well as well. So they're the other kind of core tenant. I have a couple other tenants, and the Portland Life Center is a church that's rented the auditorium. The auditorium was always one of the tougher nuts to crack because it was this great, amazing space to use, but how do you use it and who do you use it for? So I've shown that thing so many times and had all kinds of interesting conversations, and some of them seem like they might have been beginning to bear fruit right around the time COVID hit and then, shut down. There's not much use for a gathering spot right now, even though I can probably socially distance 150 people in there. Probably it's 480 seats. So, but Portland Life Center came along. They needed a place to go because they were in the Riverton School and had to leave there. And they've been a great tenant. They've been mostly just use the space on Sundays. They're trying to sublet during the week. So when tenants come along to me and want to do events, I pitch them down to them. And I'm hoping by the over the next few months, it sort of turns into like more of a mixed use kind of venue where it's rented out and you have a variety of groups coming in there. But that hasn't really been realized yet, I think more just because of COVID than anything else. So if you know the building, it kind of splits in two. There's if you walk in the atrium, you go left, you have a gymnasium and auditorium. And if you go right, you have the classroom wing. So the second floor of the classroom wing, we are turning into offices, and that's under construction now. So phase 1 of the construction was really the daycare. We didn't really do anything to the gym or the auditorium. So we finished the construction on the daycare, and now we're under construction on the offices. And we basically are turning the offices into 7 suites. And I'm moving in there. I'm moving out of the old port and moving there. So you guys are going to be stuck with me as your neighbor too. So I'm coming there, and we have a speech therapist signed up for. We have 7 suites. May split 1 and 1/2, make 8, but call it 7 for now. We have a massage therapist. We have a speech therapist signed up and a massage therapist in advanced discussions. And then we have a media company who will remain nameless, who hopefully is going to sign his lease soon. And then we'll have 2 or 3 left. We've had a lot of action on therapists and kind of social service type providers, single office, kind of really small tenants. So we've been sifting through those and hoping to fill the building with kind of nice associated uses. And it's been building an office space out during COVID is like the last thing you are supposed to do, but it's been okay. We've been leasing it up, we're about half full, and we have one sort of bigger space we may turn into co-working because all the tenants we're getting are small. And we may bust it up into 7 offices because if you read MainBiz, there was this article in MainBiz lately talking about how the co-working market's kind of bifurcated and nobody wants to be in the bullpen right now, but everybody wants a little private office. So if we just do like 7 private offices and no bullpen, we might have a kind of a neat thing. So we're building that up now. We'll have that done middle of May. So I'll probably be moving in there in mid-May. And one really cool thing about the building, which you may not know, is that it turned 50 last year. And when a building turns 50, Dennis probably knows what can happen, but maybe the rest of you don't, is that it's eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. What that means for developers like me is it can get tax credits if it's eligible. So The Mother House historic building, obviously, no brainer. But that building, you kind of look at it and you're like, I don't know if it's, Anyway, I got it on the register. So I got it eligible for listing and as part of the district. So that renovation that's occurring is a full historic renovation of that school. So it's eligible for historic tax credits, and it's sort of being treated lovingly. And we've saved all the kind of cool McCauley artifacts that got left behind. And at some point, we're going to put out a call for more and try to do maybe a little mini museum on the first floor and try to sort of celebrate the history of the building. But up on the office space, I've kind of got a cool thing going on. I've got a mural going in, a Portland mural, which is kind of conceptual yet. I don't want to share too much, but I'll tell you who the artist is. If you know Molly Maps, you can go to Molly Maps website and check out what she does. She's going to do some murals on the walls. That's going to be super cool. So pretty excited about that. Kind of this is, little bit of a labor of love because it's over budget and I'm just dumping more money into it, but it's like you got to finish it. So you get into it and you find out the roof isn't any good, and you get a little further and it needs a whole new fire alarm, even though it has a fire alarm. And when we first bought it, we found out that it's never had a sprinkler. And so it's got a sprinkler now, it's got fire alarm now, it's getting a new roof on part of it, and on and on and on. So it's a money pit, but the credits are going to kind of save me, hopefully, and it'll be pretty cool when it's done. Phase 3 of construction, the last phase, probably going over my 10 minutes, but I'm assuming this is all interesting, so I'm gonna keep going for a minute. The third phase, the final phase of the build out is going to be a fitness center and a cafe. And the cafe is Tally's Cafe. If you've been in the Intermed building and seen the cafe there on the first floor, Julie Caliento Walsh is a great restaurateur. And funny story of how I met her. How did this happen? Oh yeah, she had her accountant is same as my old accountant. And my old accountant called me one day and said, I have these checks that say 631 Stevens LLC. And is this something to do with one of your LLCs? Because I've got like a lot of LLCs. And I said, no, that isn't me, but it's interesting that someone has one of my building's addresses on their LLC. So I Googled it and found these phone numbers and reports. And turns out Julie was the one who ran the kitchen for the McCauley School in MGA. She was the kitchen operator there. And so we got talking, and I said, I'd love to have a cafe in there in that kitchen. She said, I want to open up a second location. So we met, we kind of hit it off, and she's bringing her business back to where she ran it for the girls there a few years ago. So, and all her kids went there. And so it's kind of a cool story, but that's going to be right in the atrium when you look to your right, and there's that little brick doghouse there. So that's going to be the window, and the kitchen is right in behind that. We split the kitchen in half, gave half of it to growing learners and half of it will be for Tallies. So that's going to be kind of the connective tissue, I think, that knits the whole building together, because we're not going to have restaurant seating per se, but there'll be seating outside. There'll be seating, up on the deck. If you look in the atrium and you look up, there's that weird deck up there that kind of goes nowhere. But we're going to have some seating up there. We built a hallway to it, and there'll be furniture so you can, have a coffee while you're waiting to pick up your kids from basketball, or if your kids are hungry when you pick them up from daycare, you can grab some food and that kind of thing. So we'll probably be eating most of our lunches there because she does a really good job. And then the final piece of it is health coaches at Stevens Square Fitness Center, which is going in the locker rooms behind the gymnasium. And if there's one thing other than an office build out you shouldn't do during COVID, it's probably a fitness center, maybe a hotel. But anyway, it's the thing the building wants and needs. I need those amenities for my residents, and it's a fit. So despite the pandemic, we're charging ahead, and we've tried to do some pandemic proofing. We've put UV and ionization in the HVAC for the offices to, cleans the air more often. There's more air changes, it kills viruses. So we're doing that. We'll do the same thing in the gymnasium, but we're also building out a fitness patio on the back wall so that people can work out outside, and then connect it to all the trails and all those kind of things. So I was frantically calling up exhibits when I'll share my screen here. Okay. Let's see what we got here. So here's the fitness center. So if you see my cursor, right? Let me see. we'll start here, orient you here. This is the second floor. These are just the office suites. Nothing really special to see there. It's a little different now. It's a little different layout, but here's the parking lot. This is Walton Street. This is Stevens Ave. And so this is the atrium. So you come in the atrium, this green space here is Tally's kitchen. And then these are sort of building offices. And then the daycare is the blue here. But if you, there's a hallway in between the gymnasium and the auditorium, which goes back to the pool. And if you've been on the website and seen the pool was full of old furniture and broken chairs. And we've got 50 grand into that so far. And we've taken out the deep end and replastered it and put a nice tile band on it. So it's 4 feet deep all around for senior exercise classes and those sorts of things. And the pool is actually going to be integrated into the fitness center. So we've got locker rooms on each side of it. And then these big, these are basically the McCauley locker rooms and the basketball offices. That's going to be the fitness floor. We've also got the mechanical room in here, which we're demoing because we're taking out the steam plant and it's going all to modern HVAC. But then out behind here, and the mother house is over, if you keep going, the mother house is there, but out behind here, we're going to put in a patio. And do I have here's just a little blow up of the fitness center, a little more detail. I have some beautiful eye wash of the patio somewhere, but I don't want to mess up my flow. So I guess I'm gonna not try to show that right now because I don't want to mess it up. I feel like I've got a good rhythm going here. So that's kind of everything that's going on. I expect to go to construction on the fitness center and the cafe sometime this late spring, whenever I can get the city to give me an approval and a building permit, which is another thing that's pretty hard during the pandemic. It was hard before, it's harder now. But that's the deal. We're going to build it out. I'm going to be there every day, and we're just kind of having fun with it. So that's what's going on at Stevens Square. I'm happy to answer questions or talk more about it, but thank you for listening.
Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it. So just raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question or say something. Scott?
Hey, Kevin, thank you for all that information. It's a lot. So I was impressed that you got it done that quickly. I had a couple questions. So I run a Parks and Rec department. So when I hear community center, I think activities and stuff. And so a couple questions I have for you is from Daring Center neighborhood, we do a lot of outdoor activities and we don't know what the future holds after COVID and stuff. But when I think community center, we don't have a lot of places where if we wanted to have an indoor event, and I'm thinking the theater might be a great place to have an event that maybe it's something our organization organizes, but also becomes an amenity for your residents, where they live there and it's an opportunity for them to go and go to a show or something like that. I just throwing it out there as if that's ever a possibility, having that kind of a partnership, whether it's donating an evening or maybe we're charged some kind of a fee as a nonprofit or something like that. And then I'll throw the bunch of questions and then you can decide what you want to answer now. But the second one is, the fitness center and the pool going to be something that's going to be open to the community, or is that going to be just for residents? And then there was another question I had. Is there going to be any part of that athletic field left? And the only reason I asked that is the fields in Portland it's getting tougher and tougher to find a field to do activities in that particular area, especially in the Daring Center neighborhood. There's not a lot of athletic fields, and it's getting tougher for some of these small mom and pops organizations to have a place to even kick a soccer ball or other things. So I was just curious if that's going to even be any type of an opportunity. But that's all I got.
Okay. So the auditorium, absolutely. We're open to those kind of partnerships. That definitely enriches the life. The farmers market's there probably. Now donating at night, I don't see that as a problem at all. Right now the Portland Life Center has the lease, so it kind of has to go through them, but we have an agreement where I get some of the revenue, I'm sure they would donate at night because they're very community minded anyway. And we can certainly make that work. Now this is it's a community center, but it's kind of a weird animal because it's not taxpayer funded. It's also a private real estate project. So the problem and the challenge of it is to find enough private renting uses that come together and create that feel. So it's never going to be like a rec center or a school, but it's going to hopefully approach that. But we're also not going to pay the mortgage off a one-night rental to a community group. We just soon donate it and have a cool event, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
I think
Cool, thank
that's fruitful. Fitness and pool, it's not going to be just for the residents. It's going to be for the public. We're still working on the revenue model for that because, of course, I have to be a partner in the fitness center because it's, I just have to be anyway. So I'm investing in it so to make it go. So the one of the thoughts is, do we want a lot of members paying a little or a few members paying more? So with COVID, we kind of think maybe we want a few members paying more, but we're still going to have, in membership in the hundreds. It's not going to be the Planet Fitness model with $10 a month and nobody goes. We want people who are engaged, and I think our market is really twofold. It's our buyers and locals. We don't really tend to draw much beyond that. But yeah, it'll be open, but it'll be a membership fee. The athletic fields, eventually there'll be nothing left, but it's going to take quite a few years to probably build all that out. So the plan is to build pretty much on that whole thing, but until that happens, hopefully they'll be able to. We've let the city use it for free each of the last couple of years, and hopefully that use can continue.
All right. Can I ask you just more question about the athletic fields?
Sure.
Is that something that any organizations at this point are still trying to use? Have you got any relationships with that?
What it's been the past couple of years is I give it to the city to use and they agree to maintain it and then they control it.
Okay.
So anyone that wanted to use it have to go to the city. And the idea was that they would charge revenue to groups and I would get like 70% of the revenue, and somehow each of the last 2 years I've got zero. So I don't think that really was the model that was posited, but anyway, it's fine. It works out. Kim's laughing, but so we're trying to figure out what happens this year because actually Blue Wave has some interest in using the fields and doing some stuff. So I'm interested in seeing if the city can work together with Blue Wave, but I haven't, it's been used by a lot of groups and I've never gotten paid. That's what I know for the last 2 years anyway. So
yeah, and I can give you the answer for that. The city tried to at the last minute put that through their last budget cycle, and sent all the 24 different organizations letters with how much they would need to pay based on their usage in the past without giving them a chance to prepare their own budgets. So that all did not go very well with the city council.
okay.
So that's why the city's not charging these organizations anything, whether they're a nonprofit, a travel, I don't think anything's being charged at this point, but I don't think that's a done deal. That's fine.
We don't have a lot of time, just eye on the clock here. So if you have questions, if you could say them succinctly, and Kevin, if you could have very succinct responses, we'll probably go another 4 or 5 minutes.
I'm done.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Kevin.
There was a hand up. Was it Colin?
Yeah, I mean, it's not super important, but you can probably answer really quickly, Kevin. The gym, are you renting only through the Blue Wave guys, or is there another way to actually get rental there?
No, it all goes through Blue Wave. They use it a lot, but they are interested in subleases. But I have a master lease with them, so legally I don't control it. I just it's theirs.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colin. Other questions or anything else anyone would like to share? All right, I got one quick question. So you mentioned the gardens, Kevin, between some of the new building, new construction and the woods. Can you just talk a little bit about those gardens? I didn't know that.
We want to do some community gardens on site for the residents, and we think we don't have a great place to do community gardens given sunlight and shade and those things, but that's the best of all the bad places we have. Mm-hmm. So we may do, when I said gardens, I meant there'll be pathways, kind of a landscape architect calls it an edge condition, mediating between the buildings and the woods and sort of, dialing down into it. But I think there might be some community gardens back there for the residents. other than that, we don't have a big design yet.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Any other questions or anything? Sam?
Thanks. What about any LEED certification or other environmental consideration in the whole project?
Well, we're not LEED cert. I did the first LEED Platinum building, multifamily in the state of Maine, and what I found was you get a certification and you get a plaque for stuff that's kind of smart to do anyway. So that was my first and last LEED building, and we're not pursuing LEED certification, but we're probably eligible for LEED if we went for it. But generally speaking, I mean, what I always tell people is the greenest building is the one that you don't have to build. And when you're saving all the embodied energy in bricks and mortar, and renovation is the greenest sort of construction possible. So when you take a 50-year-old building and you give it a new sprinkler and you give it a new roof and you give it a new fire alarm, to me, that's greener than any kind of gleaming edifice you might build that gets LEED certification. So that's my pitch for historic preservation on LEED.
I have to go, but I appreciate you breathing life into the campus, and also want to thank John and everyone on the board for your leadership in Deering Center. Really is terrific. I'll put my info in the chat if anybody wants to reach out. But thank you so much for the presentation, Kevin, and thanks for the board's indulgence letting me visit tonight.
Thanks, Sam. Good to meet you.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap up questions. Kevin, thanks so much for coming and sharing a lot of, it's really dynamic goings on there. So appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time, and you're welcome to stay on if you like for the rest of the meeting, but no pressure either way.
Yeah, no, I was in the middle of, had my grill out. I was making a cheeseburger and Will texted me, and my cheeseburger's half cooked, and I'm gonna go eat that cheeseburger. So, all
right,
you guys have a good meeting, and I'll be around. You know where to find me, and you'll see me. So, guys, take care.
Great, thanks, Kevin.
All right.
So let's do a call to order here. We have one new person. I just want to introduce Kim. Just say hello and introduce yourself.
Thanks all. Kim Cook. Not really all that new, although I didn't have the luxury to attend night meetings outside of city council business for the last several years. But before that, I was on the board. So I guess
Thanks,
visiting again. So thanks for having me.
Great, good to see you, Kim. All right, so call to order. So the minutes were sent out. Any edits or questions about the minutes? Okay, do I see a motion to accept?
Sorry, one quick question, John.
Sure.
And maybe this is going to come up later, but did we capture some of the next steps that Jeff promised?
I read them earlier this afternoon. I honestly don't recall. Zach, do you?
No, I didn't. I don't normally really record the community conversations.
Okay.
Really part of the board meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
I can say what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should probably write that down between all of us, not just on you, Zach, so we can follow up through the Green Committee. So, yep, great, thanks.
Good point, Colin. Okay. Anything else about the minutes? Any other edits or questions? All right. Do I see a motion to accept the minutes from January's meeting?
I make a motion to accept the meeting, accept the minutes.
Do I see a second?
Second.
Carrie? Okay, all in favor? Great, the minutes are accepted. Thank you, and thank you, Zach, for doing that. Second thing on our agenda today. So Hillary, is it Irons? Am I getting it right?
Yep, that's right, Irons.
She reached out a number of weeks ago about concern of hers and a proposal that she brought to the city council. And seemed like it would make sense to bring it to us as well. So I'm going to turn it over to her. You can screen share if you'd like. These are her concerns and proposal. And as a board, I think it's our responsibility to listen. And I'm not sure what we want to do or not do, but I think listening is a good start. So I'll give it to you, Hillary.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation, John, and thanks everybody else for being here. Now, in terms of bringing this proposal to the City Council, I sent an email to a bunch of counselors, but I don't actually know what the proper procedures look like for bringing something before the City Council. So I have a sort of amateur citizens understanding of how that might work. So I might ask, after my short presentation, I might ask for a little feedback from you to see, you know, what a sensible path forward might look like for my idea.
Let me just say one thing too. If Kim is able to stay with us, she's the former city councilor from the district that you're living in. So she has a lot of expertise if she's still with us and would like to share it. So
great, thanks. All right, Kim, I hope you're still going to be here after my short talk. All right, let me just share this. And oops, sorry, I'm still in there. All right, so my little proposal here has to do with gas-powered leaf blowers in the city of Portland. And this is a sort of hypothetical proposal to ban or regulate the use of these devices. These are machines that are completely federally unregulated mostly because of the lobbying from the industries that produce them and sell them. I don't think that they're an appropriate device for use in the city of Portland, which, although it has residential neighborhoods, remains a sort of city of neighborhoods that has a certain kind of urban density. And to me, these machines are problematic in a neighborhood like this. I'm not going to read these slides because it will be long, but I can share this slide presentation with anyone afterwards if you're interested. So there's a few problems with these machines. And mainly we have issues with environmental health and sustainability, physical health of people and animals, and neighborhood relationships. So I'm going to talk about these things sort of in 3 parts. So gas-powered leaf blowers are mostly made up of 2-stroke engines, which are not regulated. There's no emissions control, and the burning of the gas is extremely polluting to the environment. They blow air at a very high rate with a very hot temperature. And the quote that I have from The Atlantic says, by 2020, gas-powered leaf blowers, lawnmowers, and similar equipment in the state of Maryland could produce more ozone pollution annually than all of the millions of cars in California combined. 2-stroke engines are that dirty. So they're kind of a, you know, an unregulated sort of mechanism that is not meant to be used for hours at a time. So there are negative impacts on the environment. Emissions are intense from gas-powered leaf blowers. Essentially, they produce, just by necessity of the way that the engine is designed, they produce a number of toxic, carcinogenic, and/or ozone-forming chemicals. The American Lung Association has officially warned against their use, and you can see at the bottom a little description of the kind of pollution that they make. It's essentially the case that if you drive from New York City to Los Angeles in a pickup truck, you're producing the same amount of emissions that you would produce using for 30 minutes a gas-powered leaf blower. Except, as you can see, there is a little addendum on the bottom. The leaf blower is actually pretty much a lot worse on a couple of parameters there. So they're also very bad for fragile ecosystems because of the enormous clouds of dust they generate that contain debris, mold, and other damaging particulate that settle across a wide area. They injure the plants that they are pointed at. They're very hot and the air comes out of them very quickly. It's very bad for native plants and pollinators. it's something that is contributing to the loss of pollinator populations. So there's these considerations. Another important consideration is noise pollution. So the noise that they produce is very loud. It exceeds noise safety standards. Human hearing is damaged at 75 decibels, and these are usually 75 to 100 decibels at 50 feet, which is, wider than the length of many Portland yards. A lot of people use them for hours at a time, and the noise pollution, it doesn't just stay outside, but it penetrates through to the interior of homes as well. These are some groups that have formally condemned leaf blowers because of the adverse health effects that they tend to generate. So they're bad for people, but they're also bad for little animals like these pets. Here are some impacts of noise pollution that have been collated by one of those organizations. The negative health effects of extreme noise over protracted periods of time are many. And I feel that this is also important in terms of equity issues. If we think about who has the agency to decide to use leaf blowers, who benefits from the leaf blower, who are the populations that are, exposed to it without benefiting from it or choosing to use it, and our vulnerable populations who may have experienced trauma, such as our large and important refugee population, being afforded a safe and healthy environment in the city. Air pollution, of course, also has negative health effects on human beings. It's definitely the case. It's been proven many times over that human health starts to be impacted before birth by air pollution. It contributes to asthma, reduced lung capacity, digestive problems, and neurological issues, for example. Of course, these effects are not limited to children, but also to elderly, immunocompromised, and other vulnerable people, especially. And if you think sort of in a sort of relative way about the kind of pollution that these produce, it has been proven to be very dramatic in terms of how they fill the air. They're not meant to be used for more than a few minutes at a time. So I think the last negative impact that I want to bring up is neighborhood relationships. When the neighborhood is hard to inhabit because some people choose to use these devices and some people wish to avoid them, neighborly goodwill can break down quickly. And Portland, Maine is a city that really thrives on making smart choices about how the environment is treated and how the intersection of the environment and daily life work. So the values of our city kind of uphold a closer look at the regulation of gas-powered leaf blowers. And if the city is able to develop some kind of stance regarding the use of these instruments, then individual neighborhood relationships will be made stronger instead of being compromised by personal choices that are made. I also wanted to point out, I missed this in a previous slide, but one population that is generally overlooked as being injured and impacted disproportionately by leaf blowers are gardeners who are hired to use them and don't have a choice about how many hours they spend with a leaf blower or how close they are to them every day. And when the city is able to have a position on it, then that will increase agency for those who don't have the privilege to decide whether or not to use them. However, I recognize that some people love leaf blowers. They use them all the time. And every time the sun comes out, they rush for their leaf blower. And there exist electric leaf blowers. They're quieter and they are much less polluting than the gas-powered models. They're still a little annoying, but a lot of the most intense problems that the gas-powered two-stroke leaf blowers present the city with are reduced by electric models. Banning or restricting gas-powered leaf blowers is common in cities and towns across the country. It becomes more common, every day. More and more cities and towns pass these ordinances. This is a little partial list of some towns as of a couple of years ago that have either banned them outright or severely restricted or limited their use, or only allow electric leaf blowers. One of these cities is Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is a city that's quite a bit like Portland in some ways. In this slide also has some pictures of people reading outside, which is something that you cannot do if there is a leaf blower in the vicinity. And the city of Portland has shown a commitment to progressive values and environmental responsibility. I think the city of Portland deserves a ban or a restriction on these devices. Our natural resources and public health are valued by the whole population. We live in a very environmentally distinct and fairly vulnerable area of Casco Bay. And these things are regularly recognized by city ordinances. Some things that have been banned or restricted are plastic drinking straws and synthetic pesticides. We're in the middle of banning synthetic fertilizers. The new Green Deal has mandated that green building and maintenance technologies are used, and reducing the dependence on fossil fuel is one of the important things about that mandate. I think that gas-powered leaf blowers definitely belong on this list because they really wreak inordinate havoc on the environment and health of our city. So, in conclusion, the use of gas-powered leaf blowers is not a right, and it's not inevitable. It's harmful to our air, land, water, and creatures. I would love to see what could be done about changing the paradigm of their use for the good of everyone in the city of Portland. And here's a few resources that I put together. The main really amazing one was a document that was put together by Lincoln, Massachusetts a couple of years ago that was exhaustively researched. So all of the data that I used was, backed up by different things that were mostly listed in this PDF, which is here. There's also some pretty good articles that talk a little bit about the other effects and a list of cities that have banned them. So that's my presentation. I would love to see if anybody has any questions or suggestions for me about what I can do with this moving forward. I did send a long and sort of unhinged sounding email to those counselors, and I don't think that was probably like the appropriate way to get them to take me seriously. So if anybody has a better idea, I'm very open to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hillary. So yeah, just raise your hand if you have a question or a suggestion or anything.
Where'd he go? Oh,
Karen.
Did I get in there before Colin did? Hey, Hillary, I'm glad that you brought this to the attention of the group. I'd be happy to work with you on sort of like cleaning up a presentation or something. I have no idea how you would bring this to the city council. I would say, though, that it's ironic that you brought this up because every spring and actually throughout the summer, the gardeners on the USM campuses take out there. And I never can figure out what they're thinking because there's like classes going on and they're out there with their leaf blowers. Like, what are they doing? Anyway, so I think it can be a real problem. Yeah. So thanks for talking to us.
Great.
Colin? You're muted, Colin.
Is Kim still there, and can she help with the kind of navigation? And then I have a suggestion as well.
Okay.
Kim, is that okay?
Sure, I'm here. So yeah, long unhinged email probably wasn't the best introduction, but it
It wasn't that horrible, but
I suspect it wasn't as unhinged as you think it was. So, you know, I think you would send it potentially to the full council, but, you know, call your district counselor. And if I remember right, you're in District 5.
Is that right, Zach? Are we 5?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah, Deering Center split between 3, 4, and 5. It's funny the way it the lines work, but you're over on Fuller, right, Hillary? Or yeah. So
Yep.
you're in 5. So that's Mark Dion is the district counselor, but you know, that this ordinance, if it were to be taken up, would be taken up by the Sustainability and Transportation Committee, which I believe Belinda Ray is now chairing. There was a bunch of movements on the chairs this year. And the thing is about the council agenda, which I actually hated, and I don't agree that it's a good path, but it's the way things have been done for a long time, is that the council is asked to kind of bring their priorities forward in January. And if you bring things forward throughout the year, you get a ton of pushback from the rest of council and the staff. And they try to really limit what counselors bring forward, which I'm hoping the council starts to learn a lesson about, because having the council in that position, I think, has led to people bringing lots of, you know, ballot questions because they want to see things considered and changed. And it's, you know, I know on my 3 years on council, I had multiple proposals that I made, even in the right process, that sat and got no attention on committees. One involving, you know, not very controversial things like property tax relief for seniors. You know, like pretty, you know, pretty mainstream stuff that you would think would find the time to get addressed. But so it is difficult to bring a new ordinance forward, for sure, even as a counselor. And but I think you should just, you know, send individual emails, look at who's on the Sustainability and Transportation Committee, and then also contact city staff. So Troy Moon would be the Director of Sustainability in Portland.
Troy Moon.
Troy Moon, yep.
Okay.
And he's really the point person. He's the Sustainability Director for Portland. You know, I think pulling up those example ordinances will be a real benefit, because, you know, when you first started talking, I thought to myself, has anyone else done this? Because, you know, if you're starting from scratch, it's a huge uphill. But I think if you can pull Portsmouth's ordinance, I think that instantly gives your proposal some cred, right? If other municipalities are doing this, it's all of a sudden goes from, I've never heard of that before, to, I guess I should look at that, right? So I look at that, and I look at other state laws, because you know, sometimes things should be done, you know, you can make a bigger impact at the state level.
I think there's a state law in Massachusetts that regulates. So
yeah, and so it's too late to get a bill in for this legislature, essentially. And you had Sam Zager, who is many of our the state rep for the area, although Representative Lookner also represents part of the area, the Deering Center area. It's tough to get a bill in at this point, or even for next year. You have to get special approval from legislative leadership, but you could always look to do that as well. And there's a number of interest groups that you could, you know, be working with and bring this idea to. So certainly, since you've talked about some of the other things Portland has worked on, that Portland Protectors Group, which you may already be hooked in with, has been instrumental, I think, on the pesticide piece, and I suspect is the one probably advocating on the fertilizer piece. There's also a group called 350, something 350. Maybe Karen, she's nodding her head. Maybe she knows. I'm not coming up with it. But they've been active, and so hasn't the Sierra Club in Portland. And because there are climate change impacts there, you know, there's really so much movement going on with the statewide plan, but also Portland and South Portland have a joint climate plan. One, you know, yeah, that is very forward looking, and it was adopted last year by the councils, both councils. And we did it was a joint planning exercise, which is actually almost never happens in Maine, you know, where municipalities cooperate. So it's a great example. And South Portland Sustainability Director actually lives in North Deering in District 5. So anyway, that's some resources that you could kind of start talking to folks with. And if you can build kind of support in the community, it's easier to get the attention of council. 350 Maine. See, I knew it was something with 350, and there's probably a good reason for that I should have figured out at some point, but I never did. Anyway, so those are some thoughts, and if you know, feel free to reach out to me. I know John, and I'm sure others, you know how to get a hold of me. So
That'd be great.
Okay.
Wow, Kim, thank you so much. That's really just invaluable information.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. It's really helpful. I have my page of notes. So
oh, good.
Yeah, I hope that I'll be reaching out to you soon if I need to. But thank you so much for the tips.
And I'm happy, like Kim said, to connect you with her or Karen or others as well, and we can follow up email. Colin, did you have a question as well?
Bill, just 1 second. Hillary, I would just highly recommend focusing in on enforcement. That is how it'll live or die, because it's a rock solid case that it's a damage, but enforcing is really hard, and they're having problems in a lot of places nearby with, enforcement, including Newton, Mass. So truly focus in on how it will be enforced and what are the challenges and solutions.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to have to wrap this section up. I feel like we could go longer, but we do have some other business we should get to. But Hillary, thank you so much. It was an excellent presentation. And I really appreciate others' questions and comments as well. And again, we can follow up more too if you'd like to have some more dialogue. And I think Karen and Kim felt the same way. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for your time and your generosity of attention. I really appreciate it. I'm going to just copy this URL really quick that Colin sent, and then I'm going to go.
Oh, and you're welcome to stay. There's no rush.
I have to hop off too.
Okay. Well, goodbye when you guys do leave.
I've got to hop off too. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Kim. Bye, Hillary. So we'll probably run a little bit late, but I'm going to see if we can kind of run through some of this stuff fairly quickly. The next thing is the Charter Commission. I think I can do this in a minute and a half. Teresa Valier, who does the Friends of Woodsford's Corner, has pulled together ourselves, Back Cove Neighborhood, Deering Highlands, and University. And we've been meeting like once a month. It's been great, very productive. Back Cove is going to lead on a District 4 Charter Commission forum, and I'm involved with that, and we'll be supporting it. We'll be kind of co-sponsoring that with them. District 5, it looks like so far there's only one candidate. So I've asked that candidate if there is no competition, if he would join us for the next meeting. And maybe he could be the community conversation where he could just introduce himself and take questions. If he does get an opponent, then I think we'll need to decide if we want to do a forum or not. And we'll know by Monday. Monday is the deadline. So, and then District 3, we have a very small piece, and I'm involved with some other groups that look like they're coalescing to do one, but we're not quite there yet. So, and there's going to be a questionnaire for the at-large candidates that we're all participating in, all of these neighborhood groups, which I think will be really valuable. And then we're all going to send out to all of our email lists and Facebook pages. So I think that would be pretty cool. So that is the update on that. I would just say for this, if you have any questions or anything, just send an email after this meeting, and happy to respond. I'm gonna just keep moving forward. The next topic is kind of a hodgepodge, few different emails from different board members. Colin, you emailed about possibly adding a board member, and so do you want to say something about that, or?
Oh, no, I was actually curious. Are we down a board member? I thought I remembered that we were.
Yeah, we are. And I just read the bylaws again today. I'll forget them by next week, but I can still remember now. We could fill that slot, Monica's slot, for the rest of the year. Unilaterally, we can do that as a board. And then at the annual meeting, there has to be full elections. So you had said that there was one person, Charlie, who actually was at the last annual meeting and was interested in being on the board then, but we were already full at that point. So if he would like to do that, I'm open to that. I don't know if the rest of the board would be or not. And he could,
so this is Charlie Shatak-Hydorn. Sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but he ran for the good campaign for the water district, and
Oh, yeah.
is, a really affable, great member of the neighborhood. So I think he'd be a real asset. He's interested. So I guess it's up to the board then, John. We could appoint somebody and then there'd be election, or sorry, can you say how that goes?
yeah, we can decide tonight or at another time. We could even do it by email as well, to vote him in to fill Monica's seat for the remainder of the year, or until the next annual meeting, when we would have a duly elected, it would be duly elected at that point, by all of the membership. So what I'm thinking now is maybe just a quick straw vote to see, just to gauge what people think. Is there any?
I'd rather like not have a vote on him unless he's here. If you're saying let's have a vote on whether we want to add somebody, that seems like a good idea.
Okay. Either way, yeah. Well, why don't we do that then? I guess, is there any who would support, if there is interest in someone filling that slot, who would be interested in doing that and having someone join us for the remainder of the term until the annual meeting? Okay, I see all eyes for that. So how should we proceed then, do you think?
I mean, if you, one option would be, are we doing it every 2 months, John? Sorry.
Every month.
We could kind of give ourselves a deadline, basically. Sorry, I'll just say what I think. We could give ourselves a deadline. It could be 1 month, or it could be till the next meeting, and to bring up names that we would, and then we can do an email vote if it's not a meeting time, or in person if it is.
Sure.
So that other people have noticed, basically, that if they're, and folks that are listening in can throw their name in the hat, and then
okay. So a deadline. So I'm thinking we'll certainly meet next month. I think we'll have meetings the next 2 months. What do people think about a 4-week deadline or 8 weeks?
Oh, I think 4 weeks is plenty.
4 weeks. Okay. Okay. So we put the word out maybe in our next email. We could do it on Facebook as well. If you're interested in filling this term, we have an opening. Okay. And so it would not be an election. It would be a decision by the board, right? Which is different. In the annual meeting, there would be an election by all of them.
That's an election, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Okay, does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thanks, Colin, for raising that. It'd be good to have some new energy too. Let's see. Oh, so a couple of people have asked, well, Amy had a conflict with the meeting date. And another person has also wondered about it. And I know the person that we changed the date for isn't here tonight. So I guess I'll just open that up. Do we want to reconsider the 4th Thursday of the month?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to switch days to Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I'd prefer, and it would bring in Amy back at least, assuming that she can do another day, but I don't have a strong preference on which of those days.
Okay.
I would prefer Tuesdays.
Okay. I mean, we could figure out a time now, or I could do like a doodle tonight or tomorrow and send it out. Is that
I think a doodle makes the most sense.
Okay.
I'm free any night. So
Me too.
okay?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, I will do that. That takes 2 seconds. And the last thing here is Bobby had something come up with her family, so she couldn't be here tonight. But Dodge the Florist, and also Amy and her, I guess we're talking about this. Dodge the Florist on Brentwood is up for sale. That's a major, business and space in the middle of our neighborhood. So just to share that information, and I'll be sharing it at our next email, or I might even do a separate email. So just putting the word out, if you know of people who are looking to do different types of creative things with unusual spaces, that's good. That's a good spot. So I just wanted to share that information. And
You know what the zoning, it's always struck me as a strange spot. Is it zoned for a business, I assume? So it's not like it's grandfathered old business?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay.
It's deceptively large though. I mean, they got the greenhouse. I mean, it's big. It's a big lot. And on that same note, so anyway, to just send, if you have any ideas or thoughts about that, send them along. And the Simply Scandinavian space too, that was mentioned in the email. I have had a couple of people reach out to us who are curious and have, I think, somewhat serious interest. So, so we'll see. For people who didn't read it, there was going to be a reopening and it fell through, and now it's an empty store, so storefront. So.
And have you heard anything about Ellesmere?
No. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I've been meaning to just reach out to them and ask them. But I have not, but I'm hopeful. They were planning to come back in the spring, but it's been such a turbulent time for restaurants. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions or thoughts? I know it's kind of random business, but anything else? Yeah.
Are we going to talk about Porch Fest?
Not tonight.
Okay. We should put that on the docket. For,
yeah. No, with Amy not here,
right.
I was thinking I wanted to have a conversation with her soon, just to see what she's thinking.
Yeah.
So that's a good reminder. And probably something we should talk about next month. Just what's going on. Okay, thank you, Allison. Anything else?
I'd also like to put on the agenda for next month, so I certainly could wait till May, is just, we've got the summer coming up, and we're all going to be vaccinated pretty soon. So whether we can start meeting in person again, it could be outside, which is an option in the summer. So don't have a strong opinion, just want to talk about it.
Definitely. All right, thanks. That's great, Colin. Anything else, Scott?
Yeah, John, I'm glad the Porch Fest thing got brought up. That was actually one of the reasons I was asking Kevin about the indoor space. Is the nice thing about that auditorium is, regardless of what type of event anyone does in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, there's going to be some social distancing requirement. And the nice thing about doing an indoor space that has seating is if you could at least pass on to her that might be a possibility, because then you can manage the numbers. Because you say you got this many seats that you can properly social distance, and then you could have some type of obviously it wouldn't be a full-blown Porch Fest like a real Porch Fest, but if they were willing to donate the space, then that might be another option for them, with the worry about being large groups droving the streets or that kind of thing.
Great
So.
Great idea, Scott. All right, anything else? All right. So the merch committee, Dennis or Allison, do you guys wanna?
Oh, I don't have my shirt.
I can go ahead too, or do you guys?
Go for it, John.
Go for it. All right. So we've continued meeting and it's been good. Colin, we do have kind of, we did get kind of more formal information about the arrangement, and I have that, I can share that. It's pretty straightforward. And we're planning to do the second story, I think as we talked about last time, in the spring. So coming up April 10th, I think is kind of our hopeful deadline. And I was actually just working with Victor today on the actual store. It will look a lot like what we had before. It's going to be, we've talked about this in committee. We're not sure if it's going to work this time or not. Like if we're going to have a bunch of sales or not. I could see it going either way. But what we're doing, we have 3 things that will be featured. The headline is a tote bag, a canvas tote bag with DCNA and green handles. And Dennis and his wife are pre-purchasing it as a donation to the organization. 48 of them or something, is that 48, I think? And which is a hefty donation. And that will allow us to sell them for $10 a piece, which is, it just covers costs, but it's a steal, it's a good deal. And I think it could be kind of fun. And so I think we're excited about that. They look good. And then doing t-shirts and sweatshirts again, because it's hard to find things that are a good price point that you also don't have to order 200 of. And t-shirts and sweatshirts, torsos, you need 12 of either to hit the threshold to get it ordered. And with Dennis buying the bags, we don't have to worry about the pre-ordering piece. And so the feature with that is colors. We have all kinds of really cool colors for both the sweatshirts and t-shirts that we didn't have before. There's like 10 color options for both of them. So anyway, so I think things are ironed out pretty well. The store, I think it's ready to go right now, but it will be, I think we're going to launch it the April 10th. It will be all pickup like it was before. It'll be a 2-week, and we'll see what happens. So I don't know. Did I miss anything, guys? Or
Yes, no mugs this time around.
no mugs? We had to order like 100 of them or something, right? Oh, one other thing. We got stickers, actually. So Victor gets excited. He's really jazzed about this, and he bought these stickers, 200 of them, and donated them to us. And so we talked about how to use them, and he recommended just giving them to people. And so we thought one way, I don't know if it was his idea or the committee's idea, was the little village stores that we have. When we go out to invite them to be members and having conversations, and Scott and Dennis are going to lead this. They're actually going to go and talk to the businesses to invite them to be members. And also we could give them a pack of 30 or 40 to put on their counters, just to give to customers. And we could also promote it, so get a free sticker at Pat's or Handyworks or wherever. So just kind of a nice opportunity to get our name out there and give a little bit of attention to the businesses as well. So anyway, I think that's everything from the merch.
Yep.
Merch committee.
One thought is the merch purchase going to be linked to or around the same time as the membership drive?
Yeah,
No.
No, great. That's a good question. So April 10th, hopefully will be the launch. That it's a weekend. And then it's only going to be open for 2 weeks. It'll be closed by the end of April. And then I think for the membership committee, we talked about, well, you were on the committee. I think we talked about doing in May, sometime in May, and doing a rollout with, tabling at Rock the Block, using our Facebook and email for the businesses, Scott and Dennis, and if others are interested in actually making direct outreach to the businesses in the neighborhood. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question or not. Or
Yeah, it's just people who are really excited about doing both might might be, if they could overlap at all.
Oh, okay.
So when you're signing up for membership, there's a link to the page to buy the merchandise.
Okay, that's definitely worth considering. Thank you.
Or giving people a sticker for joining or something like that. Yeah, it's just something.
Yeah. No, good ideas. Any other ideas or thoughts or questions or? We're doing okay for time. So that kind of connects to the budget discussion. So we have like $830 in the bank right now. And did folks get a chance to look at that budget document at all? No?
Yep.
Yeah. So we have some immediate expenses coming up. The website is in May for a couple $100s. So that shouldn't be a concern. The big ones are the insurance later in the summer, early fall. And I'm going to go, I don't have it in front of me either, but I think we were shooting for a $2,500 kind of annual budget to cover about $1,900 in just getting by, with insurance and website and Zoom. And then one other idea that actually Scott had suggested is having additional monies possibly to maybe even support different ventures in the neighborhood. People maybe even asking for small grants from the neighborhood association to work on certain little projects. So that was the idea of the budget, $2,500, and then our operational expenses are $1,900, and then ideally, it'd be great if we could have that $1,900 like kind of in the bank that we don't touch, that we have. So we know we could always cover all our costs if something happened. So, and in previous years with the budget, we've come fairly close. I think it's like 1,800 is what we've raised, I think, something like that. And we've never really done a full membership drive before. Like we kind of did one, but not really the first year. So, I think I'm optimistic that we can do it, but we'll see. I don't know. There's a bunch of you that were on that committee too. Is there any other things about the budget or membership drive or?
No, I think
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, no, I had a couple things. So just to elaborate on what John was saying about, if we have some extra money, and there's nothing wrong with having a cushion and stuff, but, and I'll use like my daughter's project as an example. She's all set with funding for it. But my thought is that if anyone in the community, whether it's within the school or a family that's going to do something that's going to benefit the community, that might be, a way to set up some type of simple application where it comes to the board or there's a subcommittee and we can say, hey, we've raised a good amount of money that every year we could put aside, a few dollars to have that be available if it's needed. And, obviously we'd have to have some parameters around that, which I'm more than glad to help put together. I do that for 4 or 5 different things. But I just, Emily's project kind of gave me that thought of, that makes the difference on whether somebody can actually get something done, whether it's like some artwork in somebody's window or something that's going to be done on the pavement, that kind of stuff, something that's going to, somebody might say, hey, I'd love to put some benches on Stevens Avenue, things that are going to help our neighborhood or other parts of the neighborhood. So that was just a thought. And then around the membership, John, what I'm picturing, I have a list of all the businesses and I'm just going to have to update it because obviously some businesses are not around anymore. But my thought is I'll send the list out to the group when I get a chance. And my thought is maybe instead of just Dennis and I going around and trying to conquer, I know as it gets warmer out, my life gets really, really busy. But maybe if there's a couple of businesses that you have a connection with, that we could just circulate the list and say, if someone wants to put their name next to a couple, and then we can kind of have a little bit of a simple format of how we would approach businesses to ask them, like to be a member, but how the DCNA can be of benefit to them as well. But that's what I was hoping for. And Dennis and I haven't really had a chance to talk about it yet anyway, but and then I don't know if we had this conversation at the last meeting, but that the Rock the Block, Dennis, do you happen to know the date?
I don't. I don't
Okay.
know where that's at.
Yeah, for some reason I'm thinking it's in April. I think I had a conversation with Danielle, and I'll double check that. I thought maybe John, I mentioned the date to you, but I don't have it in front of me. But you know, she basically said anytime, you know, we're setting up a mic, that, you know, anytime we want to send out a message to the crowd that's there, or if we want to have a table set up and anywhere along the sidewalk, anything that we want to do for DCNA business, she's 100% on board.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Anything else?
Oh yeah, just to pick up on that thought of Scott's, if we do have that money that's available, it'd be really helpful if we can get that out to the neighborhood, because people might have an idea that's gestating, and knowing that there's something available might bring some fruition to it that they otherwise wouldn't be able to imagine. So it'd be great to advertise that when the time comes.
Yeah, I think once we have it, then we can definitely.
Right.
Anything else about budget, membership drive? Any other thoughts or questions?
John, what about the idea of putting some type of a sign out that represents Daring Center? Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah. I actually just wrote that down and forgot it again. Actually, with your idea, Scott, I think Munjoy Hill used to have this. They have a building, it's a little different, but of us putting up a sign somewhere, just like a welcome sign, you know, welcome to the neighborhood, Daring Center Neighborhood Association, here's our contact information, here's what we do, and just kind of a welcome sign that we have somewhere. And we talked about maybe seeing if Pat's already has that kind of natural kind of central bulletin board that's there already. And maybe if there's some way that could be part of that or next to it. And maybe when we're doing our business conversations, we could have broach that topic with them. And also, I don't know if it was in the committee or somewhere else, of also maybe just having a flyer that as we're having these conversations with businesses, if they're supportive of, just a little flyer too, just showing who we are and letting people know that we're out there, that businesses could also have, you know, put in their window or on their door or something. So there's a couple of other thoughts, really good thoughts from that committee meeting. Is there anything else, or?
Can I add on to that, John? As I was thinking about the parameters of our neighborhood, that, you know, that might be an opportunity to get a couple of signs that we could put them in some other places out off of Stevens Avenue, especially with, you know, the businesses that are more in the outskirts of the neighborhood, and for families, but just for those folks that don't even know that they're in the, not that we would put signs around the entire perimeter, because that would be insane and probably wouldn't be welcomed, but maybe there's a couple other spots that we could put some smaller signs or something, so it might pique some curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, the Mother House area might be one of them, you know, because they may not think of themselves, you know, especially if they're new to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts or things that we left out or anything?
John, just a quick one that Naomi is working with me and Amy and Karen to organize Green Space Committee meeting. That'll follow up on the conversation with Jeff. And we'll try bringing Jamie Parker from Portland Trails. What I recollect, and I might have written down notes, but I would love to help from the group here, is that Jeff offered to follow up with us towards spring, and so a call to him would make sense. But can that be confirmed by the committee, or is there somebody else that he was directing us to, like the Parks Department?
No, I think it was the committee, and I think that was the thought. The committee would, you know, get on the horn with him and
okay,
and talk. Yeah. And I think you guys have our full, you have the full blessing and of the organization to run with it,
Cool.
In particular, I remember the conversation being about repair in Baxter Pines.
Yeah.
And what, when that's going to happen and how it might take place.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to make sure it happens, have some input on how it happens, how the restoration happens, including the new, rekindling of the trail system. So yeah, we'll get on it.
And their people skills aren't always the best. So it could be an opportunity for us, because it could be really like a cool, neighborhood event to like do some tree planting and, like for people to be able to really get involved and, kind of celebrate it. So.
Yep.
On that same note, I emailed a couple of you, but Mike Murray is the director, or he oversees the Evergreen Cemetery. And he had offered back when we reached out to Jeff Tarling to do a site visit of the forestry that they had done along Stevens, which was also pretty dramatic. And he offered to do it. He couldn't make the meeting, but he offered to do a site visit. And so I asked him today, and he's like, yep, that'd be great. So we're thinking sometime in late April, and because there's significant expansion plans too, we're part of that. So there's a few different pieces, and Stevens Tavern is also part of it. So I'm thinking we could do a site visit, invite anyone who wants to come. And I think we could maybe even video it as well. So we could also just share it, to anyone who couldn't make it. So anyway, just wanted to share that as well. Okay, a lot of ground covered today. Anything else? Any other business, or Dennis?
Yeah, I'm wondering about having our district city councilors come and visit with us. And in particular, it's not so much that they hear from us, but it's building relationships. What we've learned over and over is that if they're not a conduit to us, in addition to a conduit from us to council, then we learn about things that are late. Either we don't learn about them, or we learn about them late in the process. And I think if we can get that conduit of flowing in two directions, that every time there's something comes up to our district councilor, that they think, oh, DCNA should know about that. Let me tell them about it. That would be really good for us.
What do you think about having them come to these meetings can be difficult. I know with their schedules, especially this time of the year is budget season, going all the way up to May. What do you think if anyone who wanted to, we could have a small meeting, see if we could get Andrew and Mark, and we could just have a meeting with them. It could be a morning, could be a weekend, whatever. And whoever wanted to be a part of it could be, just to have that sort of relation building and conversation. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sounds good.
Okay. Is anyone?
Coffee with the council people.
What's that?
Coffee with the councilors.
Yes. Yeah, we might actually could do something outdoors maybe. Who would have interest in participating in that if we did?
Sure.
Dennis, Allison, Terry, Colin. Is there anyone else? Okay.
But if you're going to do
Zach.
that, you would want, wouldn't the idea be to have more than just the DCNA members? I mean, or just more than the board members? You would want to have it open to all members, right?
I guess I hadn't really thought that through. I was just thinking like getting coffee, just kind of a meet and greet.
Okay.
But
Yeah, well, it's all about relationship building, but I think if it was offered, if it would have to be a time with enough notice so that I think, I love the fact that people just join our meetings now, more so perhaps than when we were meeting face to face. And so if people have that option to join at those meetings would also be good,
Okay.
beneficial.
Okay. So maybe just ask them if they would be willing to just have a sit down. Let's see, April, May. I mean, we could try for May. I mean, if they could make our monthly meeting, that would be better? Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's preferable if they can do that. And if
Okay.
not, coffee sounds like a great thing to do.
sure.
Okay. I think it's a good idea.
In my mind, it's the beginning of many over time, so that we don't just interface when there's some issue that's got urgency or contentiousness about it.
Yeah.
We just kind of keep that two-way street of conversation and communication going on.
Yeah. Okay. And that might be one thing to think about too. Is I think their council meetings are usually on Mondays, so that might be one thing to think about too. If we want them to be regulars, is not to pick Mondays. If we do change our day for our monthly meetings. Okay. Anything else? Everybody ready for bed? All right. I guess we will adjourn then. Good to see you folks.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
And
Thank you, John.
I'll
Thank
stick
you,
with
John.
Betty.
Good to see everyone.
You guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
See you later.